Welcome to thefogvlog.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of TFV. And something really special today. We have got Zodwa from VPA here. I think the first time I met Zodwa was at the Radisson Blu, and that was with the conference that you guys held there. I think that was your first day, right?
Yes, absolutely. I was so nervous. Everybody there, and I was supposed to be the leader, but I think it went very well. The welcome was very warm, and I think I survived the day. So it was lovely meeting you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've worked really well alongside the VPA. So, welcome to the show. And I think what we potentially need to do is just to get everybody up to speed again is where did we leave off in 2018? So you can just take us through that before we go into what is next.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Theo, for that. So I'm terribly excited to be on this platform. I've never been before, so I'm hoping that I'm actually audible for everybody. So looking at 2018, as you know, I joined in August, and I started on the 1st, and that's when we actually had the conference that we're actually talking about. But when I reflect, so much has actually happened within that short space of time. We had a bill before us from the Department of Health. We needed to make sure that, we are able to respond to it. We are engaging the stakeholders, we are engaging our members, we're getting the community and the public to be engaged. So that was quite a big focus. Getting all the comments, testimonials submitted by everybody that is the vaping community. And we really, really appreciated the support that actually came out of that. Almost 10,000 testimonials were submitted. It's actually record-breaking. I've been around. I've never seen a community that engaged, that vibrant, so willing to actually have their voices heard. So that really, really was a good start for me to get me motivated on the community I've actually joined. So that was the one thing. The other thing which was very important was really to get our house in order. Make sure that we've got a good structure, we've got good governance, we've got a good constitution that says, the board must meet and we actually respect, the principles of good governance. So we worked hard in making sure that we've got our house in order. We know who our members are. We get to bill in time. So all the back office, not so sexy stuff, but things that actually need to happen, we were actually able to attend to it. So I was very happy at the tail end of last year when we were able to have our first board meeting. And that was like record breaking. We've never had anything like that before. So that was important. The other highlight for me was that we have had a market research that was done by Ken Beck just to get us understanding what does our market look like? How many people are vapors? Does it contribute to the economy? Is it creating jobs? How many jobs? And things like that. It actually came out from the study that was actually conducted by Ken Beck, and we were able to release the study. And to all our members, anyone that is listening and is interested, that wishes to have access to the report, they can go to the website and they can actually ask for the report. And we actually send it to you. Such a wonderful piece of information to have.
Yeah, Zodwa, we also, after that whole conference, we did a whole show on just the market research because it was just such an interesting topic. Guys, that link will be in the description below, and I'll also put a link down for the whole PDF that Zodwa was talking about. Excuse me.
Okay, that's fine. No, absolutely. The research was fantastic for us, and we really want everybody to have access to it. I just think that one thing that I actually wanted to share is we have so much research that we are constantly trying to find, to learn more about the industry, what is happening in other markets, what are the doctors saying and or doing around the globe, so that we've got that research, that science available, so that when we engage with stakeholders, with government, with our members, people can begin to appreciate the safety features of vaping that we are actually constantly talking about. And that information, again, if you go to our website, we've been trying to share it. So again, information sharing has been a big part of what we've been trying to do. And I mean, I think lastly, I really try to make sure that we are available to the media. We've had quite a lot of interviews across all platforms, whether it was 702, whether it was ENCA. We really try to get out there to say we've got VPA SA is actually the voice of the industry. Come and join us, talk to us, and let us see how do we partner into the future. So all around, we actually do think that 2018, within the 4 months that we really try to put some focus and energy behind it, has gone exceptionally well.
Yeah, well, congratulations for just all of that. I mean, that's incredible, incredible story for 2018. And welcome to the community, of course. So I think where we need to go now is, of course, the submissions were made, right? All the submissions, were put in. Thank you to everybody in the community that did that. That's an amazing response. But now I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is, where do we go from here? What is next for us? What can we expect in 2019? What is the VPA going to be doing about it?
Okay, so let me start on the whole issue of the bill, because that's quite a big monster that we actually have in the industry. We've been able to go out there and articulate our position and highlight. We are not saying we should not be regulated. We're saying no to regulation. We just have been advocating for sensible regulation of the industry that is actually based on key scientific fundamentals. So that has been very important to us, and we've communicated it as such. And another thing that we continue to say is the right thing to do is to separate the vaping community from your traditional combustible cigarette. It is not the same. To try and put it under one basket, we've been saying we are missing an opportunity to actually look as to how best can we regulate the industry, use the science, and make sure that that which we put out there is fit for purpose. For the moment, that is actually not happening. In any event, some of the things that apply to the combustible tobacco market, they completely don't apply to the vaping market for the moment. So it just does not make sense on many of those areas. So that being the position, where are we? What's going on? What can we expect? We have made our submission on the 9th of August, I think it was, and we submitted our submission together with all the research that is actually available on the issue of vaping, the science behind it, because we felt that as government regulates, they need to know what it is that we are relying on to say some of the things that we're actually saying, and how do we back it up, which is very important for us. We also submitted all the testimonials that we received from the community. Again, we were able to post some of these things on our social media, on our Facebook. And where are we currently on the legislation? Government is plowing through all the submissions that they've received. They will consider the submission and then decide, based on what has been submitted, is there a need to actually revise the bill and then take it back to the public for public comment? Or do they think that they are able to make the comments, change the bill, but not fundamentally or substantially, and then be able to take it to Parliament? So that is actually would be the next two steps that are coming out from the department. Is it a parliamentary route, or is it another public comment route, depending on what it is that they do with it? The only thing that is a challenge for the moment is that we know that we are going on election this year. And so all the bills that are before Parliament, everything is going to dissolve. And then the new government, when they take over, probably towards the tail end of the year, August, September, we do not have the clear final dates because we don't know even when are we going on election. Then we imagine then the new Minister of Health, whoever that is going to be taking over the portfolio, will be presented with the strategy of the department, all the work that has been done, and the bill itself is going to be there, and then they will need to decide as to what then becomes the next step for them. So we will have to just keep a close eye on it and wait and see what's going to happen. But our engagement continues because we want to make sure that everybody and anybody knows what is our position, what informs it, and the fact that we really are looking to work with all the stakeholders in the industry.
Zodwa, I'd just like to ask something. So you making it clear that the public submissions phase is not necessarily over. Phase 1 is over, but they may present a revised bill in which the industry and the consumers and so on get a second chance to make submissions. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is there any government channel? I mean, I would imagine the government gazette maybe, but is there any other government channel where vapers can kind of keep up with what government is thinking, with what government is saying, with any sort of timetable that they have, that we can get a better idea of what's going on? Because we've essentially heard nothing since the initial public comments phase ended. So it's kind of frustrating to not hear anything for months at a time.
Yeah. No, I just think that one of the things that I need to own up is what is it that we have been doing as VPA to make sure that our members never sit with the vacuum. So certainly when we've been going online and having these discussions and interviews, we have tried to make sure that they're available on the platforms, and by far they weren't focusing on the bill. We are changing a little bit as to what it is that we're going to do this year, particularly focused on servicing our members, to make sure that we do not have this lull or people do not know what is happening. But I'll talk about that as a focus for our members, what it is that we want to do. But on the bill itself, it's usually, with the bill, what tends to happen is if there's a big thing happening, they will actually publicize it, the submissions are in, and quite frankly, there's nothing else that is happening until the next phase or the next move from the government. So whether you go to polity website, polity.org, whether you go to the parliamentary website, you will not be finding any activity because the focus is usually on what it is that government and parliament is dealing with at that point in time. So when there is a lull, it's not because there is no, we're keeping the information, but rather because there's nothing that is happening. Government is sitting with the submissions, they will go through it, and when they are ready, whenever they are ready, we can only make speculation, and because we understand the legislative process, we will say, we think they will go this route or that route or that route. And again, they come and they say, actually, we want to take this thing back to public comment, or we want to take it to parliament, or we want to take it to NEDLEC. Again, those are some of the avenues that are available. That's why we are constantly monitoring it and engaging so that we are not missing anything that happens insofar as the bill is concerned, because it is going to be one of the biggest life changes in our industry. That is why it was priority number one, and we have continued to monitor and stay close to it. But that is going to change in terms of keeping you abreast with what is going on insofar as that is concerned this year.
Do we have any indication of members of parliament or, of government that is kind of backing VPA and what their suggestions is at this point?
We have done quite some engagement with, let's say, our stakeholders with the department, some members of the Department of Health, the Department of Trade and Industry, Consumer Goods Council, and so on, even some of the union members. FAO, we had an opportunity to meet with them. One of the things that we learned was that many people are not exactly sure what is vaping. So education as part of the key of our strategy this year is very fundamental. So we as the community, we know what this is, what the benefits are. The people have written about it. They've been able to share how they've been able, to start jogging once they started vaping and so on. But generally people don't quite get what is vaping. So education has to be a big focus for us this year. So that is the one thing that we actually realized. The second thing is once we've engaged with the people, explained what it is, how does it work, where does it come from, and allaying some of the fears that they harbor by virtue of not knowing, they're like, oh, how come we don't have this thing? Why is it not widely accessible? Why is it still expensive? More people need to have access to it. Where can I try it? Can we try it? Do you have any samples? So the world, or probably South Africa, is ready now to receive the information. We think that we've tilted the soil. We've gained quite a lot of interest. Now we actually need to move in with focus programs just on education. And I think once we are able to overcome that hurdle, we are then able to have sensible discussions that will result in sensible legislation. Because it's no longer, no, I'm not interested. It's like, tell me more. Now that we have, it's like, okay, wow, I did not know. No, this is interesting. And we even realize the impact it has on the community and our economy. No, government must be aware of this thing. And that's where then you get unions like FAU saying, send us your submission. Let us read what you guys are saying. Because all of a sudden we've been able to call them, introduce them to the industry, to the products, what we do, and the fact that we are actually responsible, citizens of the country, and then they're willing to work with us. So I think that has actually taught us something last year that has gone on into our plans for this year.
Okay. Yeah, that's really great news. I think that's super important this year. The other question I had was, how are we 100% sure that that this bill will not be taken into Parliament, right? This proposed bill will not be taken into Parliament before the election, or are we quite sure that it will only happen after the election has taken place?
We are comfortable that it is not possible that it would go to Parliament before the elections because the government is still going through the submissions. There's not been any suggestions that they are almost done or halfway through. But also most of the parties, as you've seen, they've started kicking in their campaigns, and very soon, the Parliament is going to dissolve. I think towards the end of March. So any urgent legislation that will be tabled will be focused on elections. But we're very comfortable that it will not be taken to Parliament, or this Parliament is not going to be passed at all this year at all. Yeah.
Zodwa, one of my observations about vaping legislation worldwide is that many countries aren't doing it in a sovereign and autocratic way. A lot of them seem to be uncertain, and they're looking at other countries. They're saying, what's the EU doing? What's America doing? What are other countries doing? So there's, because it's such a new technology and people are uncertain of how to progress, there's a kind of hesitancy in saying, well, let's not take any radical steps ourselves. Let's look at what's happening in other countries. Do you get the sense that this applies in South Africa as well, that we kind of looking outward and trying to get some sort of signal from the EU, from Australia, from America, from Canada?
I don't know how much that is happening in South Africa, because part of the legislative process and the role of the legislature indeed is actually those research to actually understand what's happening in other global leading markets on any topic for that matter. I had spent time in Parliament in my earlier years, and one of the things that we used to do with Advocate Johnny Lange was indeed to look as to what's happening in Canada insofar as the Constitution is concerned, what is happening I remember we went even to Australia to look at juvenile justice. What can we learn from there? And I just fear that for the moment in South Africa, we have not geared towards that when it comes to vaping. So when you look at the combustible cigarette, they're saying in Australia, they started with the picture health warnings on the cartons of cigarette, and as such, the rate or incidence of smokers have actually declined. And as such, as South Africa, we want to introduce the same legislation. Now, this is me just putting it very simply. We are not doing the same insofar as vaping is concerned, because if we look to the UK, they've had their own science committee to Parliament that did the research, looking at the impact, and actually even proposing some radical changes to the vaping legislation in the UK based on the research that they found, almost reversing the years of legislation that they have had there. Now, if that's where the UK is, surely as South Africa, we can say, why is South UK doing that? What is it that they are learning? What science is actually making them do what they are doing? Can we see what is this study? So our role as the Vaping Products Association has been to gather that information and put it out there into the public to say, this is what other people are doing. What can we learn from them? And I'm actually hoping that, we have been able to tilt the soil so that we can now engage in some of these discussions, because I say we don't want to be stuck where other countries were stuck, long ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and have to now re-engineer the process because we are learning what they learned long ago. There's no point. We are a universal community. We can share information. And right now we work closely with some of the UK organizations to say, what is going on there? What is happening in the UK Cancer Association and so forth? Because we can all learn so that we bring that information to our markets to even better our own legislation. So that's a very important point. We need to learn from each other. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one more question just around once we have that election, what is the sense that this bill is going to be priority, to be taken into priority? I mean, to be taken into Parliament?
I don't know what is going to happen in the next election because I don't even know which party is going to be winning the elections. So obviously they each have their own priorities based on their own policies. But in South Africa, I mean, if we look to what the leading organization has been doing, has really been focusing on job creation, on listening to the people, in actually focusing on some of the areas that, we've not done very well on, like education and health, and so on. So one might think that, there's already so much that needs to be done. Will this be the priority, and on what level, and how would they want to push it on? I don't know. I mean, your guess is actually as good as mine. But it does not then mean that we should actually remove the pedal for ourselves as an association to make sure that we finalize even our own code of conduct that we've been working on and we want to share with the members, because we are indeed for the moment a self-regulating industry. And we need to make sure that we hold each other accountable. We've said that we will not be selling to children below the age of 18. Most of our members are doing that because we are holding each other accountable, but we need to continue to demonstrate that good, responsible behavior that we've actually been able to take to the legislature to say, this is what our members do. And they've signed up to it, and they've actually are holding up to it. They are not doing 1, 2, 3. And indeed, fortunately, no one is going to come and say, but Zodwa, you are contradicting yourself. Here it is, these people are doing 1, 2, 3. So that's why I'm saying, having been part of this community has really been really refreshing, because people have just been fantastic in what it is that they do.
I'm very heartened by your news that bodies like unions and so on have shown such an interest in vaping. Now, I'm sure all vapers are aware of the Billion Lives documentary, which talked about the potential of vaping to save 1 billion lives.
Yeah.
Of course, with the understanding that the bulk of those 1 billion lives are going to be developing world citizens in Africa, in South America, in Asia, and so on. Do you get a feeling, because we know that vaping hasn't really taken off that much in Africa, do you get the feeling that South Africa is poised to be the sort of launch pad for vaping, and that if we are successful in marketing it here, we're going to get Nigeria, Kenya, Botswana, all the other African countries looking southward and saying, hey, look at this new technology. Maybe we can now launch this here.
I tend to think so, because all the signs are there that everyone is looking to South Africa in the vaping industry and saying what it is that they're doing. And funny you would ask, we've already had an ask from one of the leading social influencers in Kenya for us to actually have a conversation with them and talk about vaping. What is it all about? Everyone is curious about this thing. So absolutely, once we are able to nail it and show all the benefits, as you highlight, I can only imagine that it will actually take off in the rest of the other markets in Africa. In any event, I do think that regardless of where you are, people are that much more heightened in wanting to take care of their health, what they eat. They gym a little bit more than they did in the past. They are mindful of all the bad food that they are eating. So again, it goes for the smoking. Is there anything that is safer that I can actually, switch to? And now there's this vaping. People are curious and they would like to get their hands in it. It is just a global movement, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be stoppable, because it has actually proven to have the benefits that we as the association and everybody else in the community has been talking about. So it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think the message is really clear on my side, So what we all need to focus on is to educate and advocate for this year until we've got clarity on what's going to happen with the election and then, what follows from there. But that doesn't stop us from advocating out there and educating people. So yeah, that's pretty much what I can do. Zodwa, I'm going to hand over to you to maybe just tell people where they can find information, where they can reach you guys, and yeah, pretty much that.
Just before I get on to just the contact details of where we are, I just want to say that, like I said, in 2018, it was quite a number of burning platforms that we needed to deal with, putting in, the building blocks to make sure that we've got a solid association that we can now grow into the future. This year, and as part of our strategy, we want to get even closer to our members because we are here first and foremost to service them, to support them, and just see what else can we do to lend a hand. And the beauty about it is that just about all of them have been reaching out. Zodwa, when are you coming to the Western Cape? When are you coming to KZN? Can you come and see our store? Can I take you through where we actually manufacture the liquids? This is the year where we are actually going to be able to do that a little more than we did last year because of all the burning platforms that we actually talked about that we needed to attend to. So getting closer to our members is key for us. We will be having roadshows, which we started initiating last year, and we'll make sure that we realize them this year. So that's one thing that is very important. The other thing is education. We've got a whole strategic pillar as to who do we partner with to make sure we are not only just able to educate and give more information to the converted. Yes, we will share information with the vaping community already, but we need those that are still new to it. They still want to get more information. They're still curious. Can I, can't I? Why are you saying that? So education at its broadest level is going to be our focus. And we will be unveiling our partner for the year that we've decided to partner with in driving the whole educational message. And it's going to be starting in April. And I think some of you might already be thinking, I think I know what she's talking about, but it's going to be something April. So let's look forward to that. The other thing that is actually going to be important, obviously, is public policy. We will not, remove the pedal on that one. We will continue to engage. We will continue to make sure we tell our story. Anybody that is important, that is there, we've identified, we will make sure that we reach out to them and we talk to them. So those are the three things. I think I would be missing an opportunity if I do not say we are going to be on a membership drive to make sure that we've got more members in the association, and in that we'll be able to fundraise more money to be able to do more things for even our members. So that is going to be important for us. We need to be able to have sufficient funds to run the organization. So that is also another key focus that we are having. On that score, I want to say, where do you find us? We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. We have our website, www.vpasa.org.za. So that's where you will find us. And VPASA is our Twitter handle, and on Instagram and on Facebook. And that's it for me. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, guys, I will put the links down below that, if you want to get in contact with Zodwa or the VPA, you can easily find them. Thank you so much for joining us, Zodwa. It's always good to have you. Third time. You were at VapeCon as well, right? You were at VapeCon.
Yes, I was.
Yes,
I was.
It was good seeing you there. But absolutely, thank you very much for joining us. Guys, for everybody that has joined us in chat, I'm going to allow 30 minutes time just for Q&A, where we can all just answer any or ask any questions, and everybody from the VPA can answer them. So thank you very much for joining the show. Anything else, guys? Nope? Cool.
Thank you, Zodwa.
Thank you, Zodwa.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Much appreciated. Okay. Good evening.
Cheers, guys. Bye.